Did you that book, didn't there? The big, thick book of all the birds of Oklahoma? The gracious?
Yes, I think you have. And I really
Was that?
enjoy the app that you shared. I think it's called Merlin Bird.
Oh, yeah, the birds.
Yeah, it's amazing. I use it from time to time to spot.
Yeah, Elon still, yeah, she still uses that every morning, puts it out. Interesting to see what birds that come by. In different parts of the year, you have different birds coming through. Remember one particular bird. I haven't seen it here, but when we lived in Dehradun, there was one particular bird, uh, real long, slender bird, but very, very long, with a long tail. Just a regular bird body, a large bird body, but a long tail. And it seemed like the tail was so heavy it would fly like that. Beautiful when it flew.
Om Tat Sat Gurudev.
Om Tat Sat. So I found some really Om Tat Sat, Megan.
Om Tat Sat.
I found some real interesting things I want to share with you. I'm going to read to you. It's good. It's always good to attend satsang, but it's also good to have it verified by what was happening thousands of years ago. Oh, the new book in the Kindle. Get it saved. Yeah, so this is King Janaka. A lot of good stories of King Janaka. So King Janaka had finished a long day of court duties. His head was throbbing with the complaints of his subjects. Seeking a moment of peace, he walked into his royal pleasure garden. It was a place of exquisite beauty, filled with ashok trees, jasmine creepers, and marble fountains. The moon was high, bathing the garden in a silver light. Janaka dismissed his guards and walked alone, the gravel crunching softly under his royal footwear. As he strolled near a grove of tamala trees, he heard voices. They were not human voices. They were melodious, ethereal, and vibrated with a power that made the hair of his arms stand up. You hear that mentioned a lot in the scriptures, with these saints, the hair of their arms standing up. They were the siddhas, invisible, perfected beings who travel through the sky. They had landed in the garden to rest, unseen by mortal eyes, and they were singing songs of truth to one another. Janaka froze. He hid behind a tree and listened. The lyrics that drifted on the night breeze were not songs of love or war. They were with arrows of wisdom, songs of wisdom. First voice, we see the doer and we see the enjoyer, but the seer is neither the doer nor the enjoyer. It is the pure witness, clean as the sky. Why, oh mine, do you run like a dog after the bone of the world? Second voice, whatever is gained in time will be lost in time. It's something I see in the world and I contemplate regularly. There's an ex-president and his wife, Bill Clinton and his wife. and they're both. Bill Clinton had become a vegetarian and actually became real healthy. Hillary, his wife, has always been kind of unhealthy, and she's becoming very unhealthy now. And you just look at everything that they've accomplished in the way of earning money and real estate and savings and acquiring more and more and more and more. And now she can't enjoy it because her health is so bad. And then it'll probably become worse as she gets older. She's already getting up there into her 80s. So all this that's been acquired, all the houses, all the money, it's being diminished, and diminished. And then it's all going to be taken away. And you have people bleed and cry tears to acquire and acquire and acquire. And what's it for? Why, oh mine, do you run like a dog after the bone of the world? Second voice. Whatever is gained in time will be lost in time. So contemplate that throughout the day. Whatever you gain is going to be lost. I think it's either a good thing or it's a curse. And I've been doing that my whole life. I've always been thinking about how temporary everything is that I do. If I was interested in doing something, I would start to do it with great enthusiasm. Then I was seeing like a flash that I'll have some gain, but all the gain's going to be lost. Why are you doing it with so much passion? Whatever is gained in time will be lost in time. So he's at King Janaka is in his garden. He's hearing the voices of the siddhas singing back and forth. The kingdom you build today is the ruin of tomorrow. And I think about that too. I visualize the house in America, which is all made of brick. What is it going to be like 100 years from now? If it's still standing, somebody else will be living there. Somebody else will be living there in 20 years. And then how long is it going to stand? I mean, everything on earth is going through change. If you realize that, especially when you're young, but if you realize that, and every year that you get older, if you realize that deeper and deeper, you're going to be so much wiser and so much happier. Things are not going to bother you so much at all. You're not going to be crushed by changing circumstances. Why cling to the passing cloud? Because we got these big, huge windows. We look at the clouds all the time. And we were looking at some really beautiful clouds, unusual clouds. And they're just slowly changing. So that 10 minutes later, they've changed into something else entirely, or they're gone. And some new clouds have taken their place. This is the nature of life, that we live on the world. Why are we so passionate about life on the world? Why is it something we're so passionate about? We have to have this. We don't want this. We have to get rid of this. We have to get that. We have to make this change. We have to make this progress. Have to do it. Desire is the poverty of the soul. Now, desires themselves are not bad. They're not bad any more than money is bad. I mean, money is just a piece of paper. Desire is just a thought of the mind. There's nothing bad. The mind thinks of all kinds of things, good and bad. You could be thinking about money or good things. We could be thinking about money to accumulate something that doesn't really have any substantial purpose. Contentment is the true empire. But that's the one thing that almost nobody has. Just look at all the people of the world, which is really easy to do now because we have the internet. And we can look at what people are doing all over the world. People that are accomplishing a lot. And people that are really, really smart. And then people who are just accomplishing a little bit. Maybe their accomplishments are small to the world, but they're big to them. But who has contentment? Who wakes up in the morning and says and feels, I'm contented. I don't feel the need for anything. I don't feel the need to observe my own actions. I don't feel the need to change my actions. I don't feel that I have to change my actions in order to do better. I don't feel that I have to change my actions to be a good person. In whose eyes are you going to be a good person? People or God? Constantly wanting to change things. What if you woke up in the morning and you felt completely contented with yourself, even in the midst of all the change that I just pointed out earlier? The siddhas were pointing out in King Janaka's lesson. That's what realization is. Realization is contentment. You don't feel the need for anything. Now, I know what that feels like. I know that there's nothing on earth, and I've experienced just about everything on earth. Nothing is as satisfied as contentment. And there's nothing that gives contentment. That's the beauty of it. It's inexhaustible. Because it's your nature. The contentment comes from you. And wherever you go, you're wherever you go. But whenever you put value on the things that you observe outside of yourself, there's discontent. Always. Because everything's going to change. And things can change dramatically in just a moment. Or things can just change a little bit, and 5 years later, that change is significant. Things can go backwards, things can go forwards, things can go sideways. That's the nature of the world. I told you the yogis that say that they're teaching more and more and more people to meditate to bring about world peace. Is that a wise person? Is that going to bring about world peace? That's just another activity to do that is completely useless. How long is the world peace going to last? You don't know. You say, well, just working towards world peace itself is such a great thing. Well, what about acquiring wisdom? Isn't that an even greater thing? You're acquiring something. What about knowing what you already have? And the person would say, well, I don't have very much. I wake up in the morning, I'm discontented, I'm confused, I can't concentrate. I can't even do Hong Thought meditation. I can't even concentrate on that. Your nature is contentment. If you can just experience it just one time within yourself, which is why you meditate, is just to have that experience one time. You don't have to have it forever. Just have it once. And if you have it just one time, it makes such an impression on you because it's real. And then you have a comparison between contentment and what the world has to offer. It's as simple as that. Now, we specialize in Kriya Yoga. So this true wisdom, which is the wisdom of the siddhas, wisdom of King Janaka, wisdom of the perfect masters, wisdom of God, applies to every human being. It applies to every situation in the world, past, present, and future. Meaning it's real. and it's always relevant. How about if we acquire that? How about if we acquire wisdom? Wisdom doesn't come from reading books. It comes from your experience. It comes from your experience of contentment. That comes from yourself inside. And that's why Yogananda and the gurus implore you to meditate, practice Kriya Yoga and meditate, just so you can experience that. Read the satsangs of Yogananda. He says it over and over and over. All the other things that are said are not very important. This is the only thing that's important. It's the essence of everything else. Contentment is the true empire. He who wants nothing owns everything. He who wants one thing is a slave to that thing. The crisis in the garden. The song stopped as the siddhas flew away out of King Janaka's garden. But the damage, or rather the blessing, was done. Janaka stood paralyzed in the moonlight. The words had pierced his armor. The king in him crumbled. He looked at his palace, looming in the distance, like a mountain of stone, and suddenly it looked like a prison. He rushed back to his chambers. He ordered his guards to lock the doors. He refused to see his ministers. He refused to see the queens. He sat on the cold floor, stripping off his heavy jewelry, and began ruthless internal dialogue. And began, this was not a depression like yours, Rama. It was a dynamic, aggressive vichara, inquiry. He began to interrogate his own ego. Who am I? Janaka whispered into the darkness. I am the king. No, that is the title. It can be taken away by war. Another king can take it. It's happened a lot through history. You go into battle, you use the battle, and the other king takes your title, takes your land, takes your money, and puts you in chains and drags you behind a donkey. It's happened many times. I am this body. Now we all feel this. We all have a body, so we can relate to this. No, this body is a sack of fluids. Now we know this. Savitar knows this. He works in the hospital every day. He sees that the body is a sack of fluids. We can see it when we wake up in the morning. Our nose is running, or our nose is stuffy. We have to urinate. We have to drink some water. Maybe our face is puffy. Maybe we're holding water, or maybe we're dehydrated. We need to drink water. The whole body is completely dependent on fluids. No, the body is a sack of fluids. It sleeps, it wakes, it ages. I'm the one watching it age. So since you were a baby, you didn't know it, but you were watching yourself age. You didn't have the perspective, and then you started going to school, and then you started to go to middle school. You graduated from school. Maybe you went to college. Maybe you got a job. Maybe you were married. Maybe you had children. Maybe your children had children, and you're watching your body age and age and age. After a long time, I'm starting to see my body age. It's really quite fascinating. It's hard to relate to it. The body ages. I am the one watching it age. I am also the mind, you say. You have a voice talking to you all the time. No, you're not. You can't fall asleep at night if you're worried because your mind is talking, all the different angles of how to get out of the dilemma that you're in or how to solve the dilemma. And then you get some respite, you get some sleep, and you wake up in the morning, the problem's still there. Or you're just bored. You go to sleep, not thinking of anything in particular. And you wake up, not feeling motivation for anything in particular. No, my mind is a monkey. It changes every second. Yesterday I was happy. Today I'm sad. Who is the I that witnessed both the happiness and the sadness? And we know that can happen. We can be sad, and all of a sudden we get some news that makes us happy. And then we find out, well, that was false news, and then we become sad again. Things like that happen all the time. King Janaka looked at the concept of time. Now, we're very oriented towards time. I've spent 40 years building this empire, but what is 40 years to the sun? The United States of America is celebrating its 250 years. To India, 250 years is nothing. 250 years isn't very long at all. In the United States, it's only 250 years old. There's hardly anything. But they think, the United States thinks that they're the king of the world. They think that they're the strongest and the best at everything. And they've only existed for 250 years. But what is 40 years to the sun? What is 40 years to the mountain? And so one nice thing about being surrounded by mountains, the Himalayas, is you get a perspective of time. We have the beautiful sky with all the stars, the moon, the planets. You get a perspective of time. And then the mountains that have been here for a long, long time. We can see them. They're just right there. And they've been here long, long, long time. 40 years is a blink. I'm worried about things that will not exist in a century, King Janaka is saying. He had a lot of worries. I'm like a child crying over a broken sandcastle while the tide is coming in. I have conquered enemies outside, but the real enemy, the desire in my heart, is laughing at me. I act like a master, but I am a slave to my own moods. We all have moods. I remember the first time I started to experience moods. I can remember way, way back. And the first time I really experienced a profound mood, I remember extremely clearly. And I was like, what is this? Why am I feeling this? Why has this come upon me? And I could see that my parents saw that I was in a melancholy mood. They even asked him, what's wrong? They didn't know. I didn't even know what a mood was. Shame on me. I possess the intelligence to rule millions, but I do not possess the intelligence to rule my own thoughts. We see this in world leaders all the time. And we see it in anybody who's in any leadership position. It could be a coach, it could be an office, it could be a group meditation, anything. The dawn of understanding. For hours, Janaka wrestled with himself. He churned the ocean of his mind. And then, as the first rays of the sun touched the window, the butter of wisdom floated to the top. He realized the great joke. I am not the limited Janaka, he laughed. I am the infinite consciousness. I was never born. I will never die. This King Janaka is just a costume I am wearing for a play. The palace is a set. The ministers are actors. Why was I afraid? Can a shadow hurt the man who cast it? Can the events of the world touch the spirit? I do not need to renounce the kingdom, he realized with a jolt, because I never owned it. You can only renounce what you possess. I possess nothing. The kingdom belongs to the cosmic order. I'm just the caretaker. A profound, cool silence washed over him. The heat of ambition evaporated. the knot of anxiety in his stomach uncoiled. He felt light, vast, and invincible. Just then, a banging on the door broke his trance. Your Majesty, it was the Prime Minister sounding frantic. The Sunrise Court is waiting. The envoys from Granhara are here. There's a dispute in the Treasury. Please open the door. The old Janaka would have felt stressed. He would have felt the weight of duty crashing down on him. He would have rushed to put on his mask of authority. But the new Janaka, the one who has realization, and realization happens like that. Realization can happen to a yogi through meditation. And realization can happen the way that it happened with King Janaka, through contemplating the nature of the world and the nature of the soul. He walked to the mirror and looked at his reflection. He saw the king, but he knew he was the witness of the king. He opened the door. The prime minister gasped, expected to see a disheveled, angry monarch. Instead, he witnessed a miracle. So the story goes on from there, and it continues to be an enthralling, beautiful story. What I just described to you, facts about Janaka's life, was also describing your very life. You're in exactly the same position. Now, I initiate people into Kriya Yoga sadhana, and but I take questions from anybody that comes to me for help, especially after initiation. I'm bound to you to help you. A lot of the questions, the bulk of the questions, the majority of the questions are, am I doing enough? Am I doing the right thing? I know what the wrong things are that I'm doing, and I'm going to stop those. And they have a plan. I'm going to stop this and stop this and stop this. And I'm going to start this and start this and start this. Makes sense, doesn't it? Now, this happens after they're initiated. It makes me wonder what I'm doing wrong during initiation, because none of that has anything to do with Kriya Yoga, with sadhana. None of it. If somebody gets the impression that Kriya Yoga is a routine that you follow, if Kriya Yoga are techniques that you practice, you missed the whole point. You haven't even grasped what it's about. How are you going to practice it when you haven't even grasped what it's about? Well, it is about that. You told me to have an asana seat, to meditate at the same time every day, to only do good actions, don't do selfless actions, to practice these 5 techniques in this order. Yes, I said that, but what else did I say? Well, that's all you said. That's what you heard if you were listening with your 2 ears. What if you were listening with your inner intelligence, with yourself as Atma? What did you hear? I'll tell you exactly what many hear. Many don't hear it, and they're the ones that continue to not practice effectively. And what most people who are initiated into Kriya Yoga, they never are told this. Kriya Yoga practice is a spiritual practice. It is not an external practice. It's not physical actions. Kriya means action, but it's astral actions. is spiritual actions. And spiritual actions are actions that you take. They're actions that you do. Spiritual actions have power. Spiritual actions have the power of will behind them. Something that's spiritual just means nothing. It's what exists, and it'll always exist. Nothing can change that. You listen to a philosophy of the absolute. You don't live in the absolute. Sure, you can say that everything is the absolute, but what is it for you right now? Well, to some, it's everything physical. Kriya Yoga is everything physical. If you listen with physical ears, then some people become bigoted. They say, "Well, Kriya Yoga you can only be initiated through an organization that Paramahansa Yogivah founded. You can't be initiated anywhere else. It's the only authentic Kriya Yoga." They hear that, and they talk that up among themselves, and they tell other people that. That's physical understanding. That's physical learning. Every bit of that description is physical. None of it is spiritual. And Kriya Yoga is spiritual. The airplane route is spiritual. So when the Hari Mahasaya initiated disciples, he initiated them into the spiritual. He didn't put very much emphasis on the physical. Some people thought, because they had heard it from other gurus, that you needed to renounce the world, you need to renounce your family. You're really not spiritually evolved unless you're a physical renunciant. And the Hari Mahasaya said all of that is improper understanding. None of it is true. It's like King Janaka became a realized being. He didn't leave his kingdom. He didn't shirk his kingly duties. His realization is spiritual. So as it is with Kriya Yoga, it's spiritual. Kriya Yoga is practiced inside yourself. Nobody else can see what you're doing. Nobody. They can't tell that you're practicing Kriya Yoga. Nobody can see it. It's spiritual. If they have spiritual eyes, they can see it. All the activities are spiritual. They're not physical. What Kriya Yoga activities are physical? The ones that are physical are so inconsequential. I can't believe that a so-called intelligent human being would think that this is Kriya Yoga, or that this is Kriya Yoga, or that this is Kriya Yoga, this is Kriya Yoga. And how ridiculous. These are hand positions. You do with your hand. What if you're born without hands? What do you do then? You can't practice Kriya Yoga? Helen Keller couldn't practice Kriya Yoga? Sorry. You just don't have the equipment. Not at all. You don't need hands to practice Kriya Yoga. You don't use your hands to practice Kriya Yoga. What is the best posture? Is sitting on a blanket with your back upright? Is that the best posture? Definitely not. Who's teaching you these things? The best posture is where you place your attention inside yourself. That's the posture. Not only is that the best posture, it's the only posture of Kriya Yoga. So Mahavatar Babaji taught the spiritual Kriya Yoga. There's a fella, and he's still around. He was around in the 1970s. Marshall Govindan, I think, in Canada. And his version of Kriya Yoga is all these different Hatha Yoga positions. Kriya Yoga has absolutely nothing to do with Hatha Yoga at all. But it's something you can package. If you have physical things, you can package physical things and you can market it. The spiritual, you can't package any of it. You can't create an organization around it. What are you going to create an organization around? You can't harness it. You can't confine it. This is the Kriya Yoga that Krishna taught to Arjuna. You already have everything. God gave you the human body. You're borrowing it. It's just a combination of weight, of fluids and internal organs that are all being held together with the intelligence of God. No man can make a human body. Elon Musk is making, and the Chinese both are making great strides in Android intelligent AI robotics. But they can't make a robot out of growing cells. They can't do it. A human being can't make a human body. We can use the essences that God gave us to create a human body within another human body. That's part of God's law, God's creation. Well, what can humans do? Humans can't make anything that isn't going to be destroyed. I don't know, but I would think, and I don't have any doubt about this myself, that there were civilizations way, way, way in the past that there's no history of. And there's no evidence of, even under hundreds and hundreds, perhaps thousands of feet under the soil, through the ravages of time. Everything that we do on Earth has no consequence whatsoever. Now, people involved in politics, they're involved in the world. People involved in world peace, they're involved in the world. People involved in healing, they're involved in the world. People that are involved in anything, they're involved in the world. People who are involved in spirit are getting closer and closer and closer to the realm of God, the direct realm of God. And that's eternal life. So Kriya Yoga, you say all that, I'll tell you what Kriya Yoga is in a practical way, and not in the way that worldly people teach Kriya Yoga. And understand that a worldly person is somebody who puts an emphasis on the world. A spiritual person is a person that puts an emphasis on and in spirit. But to put an emphasis on and in spirit, you have to realize spirit and see how spirit integrates into the physical, where you can go relate to a human being who's fully engrossed in the physical, and how to take their awareness out of the physical and bring it slowly, slowly, slowly into the spiritual. Now that's the process, that's the initiation process of Kriya Yoga. So unless you're if you have an extremely fine intellect, which almost nobody has, there are very, very smart people with a high IQ, but they're worldly people. All they think about is worldly things. They don't think about spiritual things. I'm sure some do, but most, it's all about worldly things. Anybody can come into contact with what they are. That is not hard to do, because it's right here, right now. It's allowing you to move. It's allowing you to breathe. So why would that be hard to find? For the self, it's really easy to find. You see the evidence of it everywhere. You feel the evidence of it when you wake up in the morning. You feel alive. If you take just a moment to feel yourself, what do you feel? You feel conscious. Okay, so you've already discovered spirit. It has nothing to do with the physical. So Kriya Yoga having nothing to do with the physical, this is how you practice Kriya Yoga. if you're just horribly, terribly ensnared in the world, in the trap of the world, which we all understand the power of Maya, all the different stories of Maya, which is what we're entrenched in. There's certain things that you can do that can take your attention from the physical and into the spiritual. It's like you have a thorn in your foot and it's embedded in your foot. So you take another thorn and use it to dig in to the flesh where that other thorn is, to pull it out so it comes out enough to where you can grip it and then you can pull it out. There are a few physical things that you can do to get some space between the thorn to where you can loosen it up. In other words, to get some space between your entrenchment with the world so you can loosen it up so that you're not so serious about it. So you can, with your wisdom, you can pluck it up. Just like King Janaka, the story was how he did that. He spent the whole entire night contemplating just that, because the siddhas made such an impression on him with their talk. So this is how you do it. This is a Kriya Yoga initiation, but this is basically what it is. The easiest way to come into communion with God for the novice, for somebody who doesn't know anything about meditation or yoga or anything, is the breath. Because the breath is a power that is flowing through you 24 hours a day. Since the moment you're born, the umbilical cord was cut, and you started breathing on your own. Before that, you weren't breathing on your own. When immediately after you're born, the cord is cut, they tie it, and you start to breathe on your own. That's your connection to God as a physical person. Now, that's also a connection to the wild boar out here. I like wild boar. That's also their connection. They also breathe. But they can't do what I'm going to describe. Only human beings can do it. Animals can't do it. Birds can't do it. Bugs can't do it. Even the smartest animal can't do it. So you have your breath. You have that physical thing that can bring you as close as possible to the spiritual realm, to the realm of God. And all you have to do is follow it. Put your attention there all the time. Now, immediately somebody objects and says, "Oh, I can't do that all the time." You haven't even tried it, and you're saying you can't do it. What kind of person who hasn't even tried it knows that they can't do it? Is it that difficult? Following your breath, is it that so impossible? You can climb Mount Everest, but you can't follow your breath. Of course, you got to follow your breath. Do it. As soon as I was initiated by Krishna Sukhanati, he taught me how to follow my breath, and I did it immediately. I never stopped. And you know the story. In about 2 hours, I realized this. Oh, most of the Mahatmas that I lived with when I was 16 in the Himalayas, they all had self-realization. There's the airplane route. They could all describe it to you. They all had wisdom from their own experience. They weren't teaching the teachings of their guru. They were teaching the wisdom of God through their own experience. Who teaches the teachings of their guru? You don't have any wisdom? You've been meditating for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, and you don't have any experience that you can speak from? You have to rely on your guru's teachings from a book? Who taught you these things? This is never what I was taught. I was taught the truth about spirituality. I was taught the truth about spiritual realization. Paramahansa Yogananda said, Kriya Yoga is the airplane route to realization. He didn't just say that to hear himself talking. He said that as a fact. So where are the enlightened and self-realized people? They were all practicing Kriya Yoga. The Mahatmas that I practice with, and I practice with dozens and dozens, probably all told, and throughout all the years, probably 30. They all had self-realization. Every single one had self-realization. There wasn't one that didn't. The odd one would have been the one that didn't have self-realization. You follow the Guru's instructions and you will have self-realization. I know it. I experienced it. So without getting into Kriya Yoga initiation, the best connection you have is physical connection. And the physical connection isn't necessary. It's the connection for yogis. And yogis use a system of realization. So the system of Kriya Yoga as a yogi is primarily through the breath. Every Kriya that you do is through the breath. But you don't stay there. That isn't forever. That's just for a little while. And through the different techniques of breath awareness, and it isn't breath work. You're not doing any work with the breath. The breath is the connection that takes you to the spiritual. You do all what people say is breath work is different pranayamas, and there's a lot of them that improve your health and improve your mood. Your mood is tied to the physical because your consciousness, your awareness is tied to the physical. To a Mahatma, their awareness is tied to the spiritual. So they have spiritual moods. Worldly people have worldly moods. They feel giddy, they feel happy, but they also feel depressed or anxious or confused or angry. And they go up and down with these things. So Kriya Yoga is based on experience. First you're taught two particular Kriyas with the breath. And that leads to experience. When you start to have the experience, you disregard the breath. So that's just a couple of steps on the ladder to get you some elevation. Then you no longer need the ladder. You no longer follow the breath. That's just for a few steps in the beginning. After that, you don't need the ladder. You're elevated and you stay elevated. There's no reason to go back down the ladder. So you sit in meditation, your consciousness starts to elevate. And then in order to go back into the world and relate to people and do your work, you have to come down in consciousness? No, never. It's never taught by the avatars, by the perfect masters. It's not mentioned anywhere in the scriptures, just the opposite. You never have to come down in consciousness, ever. So if you follow the methods that I teach, which are the methods that Mahavatar Babaji taught to Lahiri Mahasaya, that taught to Sri Yukteswara, that taught to Yogananda, that were taught to me, they are proven to work. I've seen it work. Not just by chance, being at the right place at the right time. I've seen it happen with many, 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 many people, and of course, I've seen it happen with myself. And there's nothing special about me, other than I don't quit. From the moment I was initiated and I was taught how to meditate, I never stopped, and that's been 55 years. I never stopped. ever. And more importantly, I never questioned it, ever. Never doubted it, ever. Never thought, well, I'll hear a different version from somebody else. Never. Had no interest in hearing another version from somebody else. Why? I was already taught. Why do I need to hear another version? It would make no sense. And I have no interest. I've already been taught. I have no interest in collecting versions. My interest is in practice, is in my practice. I don't care what anybody else is practicing. I don't care. I have no interest in what other people are doing or what other people are not doing. So you can very, very easily with Kriya Yoga being taught practically, meaning taught in a way that you can understand. If you apply yourself, you will have elevated consciousness, and wisdom will start coming to you spontaneously. You won't have to read books. You won't have to read your guru's books. You'll be able to go to that same well for wisdom that your guru went to for wisdom. Your guru is not the sole holder of spiritual wisdom. You also have it, but it's within inside of you. Now, your outside life is never going to be the same. Maybe somebody's might be similar, but that's not important. All the outside things make no difference when it comes to God and spiritual realization. So some people think, going back to what I said earlier, they're initiated and they think, I'm inspired to make a lot of changes and I'm going to continue to go to satsang to be inspired. Mistake. It's not good to make mistakes right from the beginning. So the first correct understanding is what you do physically, what you do outwardly, it's not very important. Don't be thinking about it. Oh, I need to change this, or I failed, I didn't do that. I said I was going to stop this bad habit, and I succumbed to it again. And it's not about removing your bad habits. It's not about changing your life or changing your actions. It's about rising above your actions, and you do that practically. It's not a woo-woo imagination thing. It's an actual thing, because you have something to place your attention on. At the initiation, you were taught what to place your attention on, and start to do that. And don't be thinking about what you're doing and what you're not doing. Now, I guarantee you, if you're doing something really bad, you're not practicing Kriya Yoga. You're not putting your mind on spirit. You can't put your mind on spirit and then intentionally do things bad at the same time. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. So all those things, all the impurities in your external life will gradually fall off on their own. You don't have to put any effort into it. Put your effort into the contact, into the inner contact with God. And all these things will fall away. I guarantee it. Because there's no comparison between the external world and the inner world. There's no comparison. The inner world is so much better. You can't even compare the two. One is real and one is not real. But you have to have that experience. And it has to be your experience. It's not about faith. It's not about trust. It's about experience. If you have experience, then you trust. If you have experience, then you have faith. It all comes from the experience first. Don't try to do all the other things that are unimportant first, and then thinking that the experience is going to come from that. So people think, well, I have to stop this and this and this. I have to change this and this and this. And then I'll start to become spiritually realized. So they have a long list of physical things that they want to change about themselves. If that's the case, then you weren't really paying attention at the time of initiation, which is okay. You probably need to revisit your initiation. And most people, I give hundreds of initiations, so most people have initiated participate in a lot of initiations, and every time you get more and more real insight into what you are supposed to be doing, and what you're supposed to be doing is spiritual. There's hundreds and hundreds, thousands of Kriya Yogis that say, I am a Kriya Yogi, I am practicing Kriya Yoga. And you can look at their life and you can say, well, they're a Kriya Yogi. They're wearing the uniform. They're wearing the color. They're doing the activities. So they're a Kriya. No, you're not a Kriya Yogi. A Kriya Yogi is one who unites with God in consciousness. It's called yoga. Yoga is uniting with God in consciousness. It's not all the outer things. So if you're a genuine, real Kriya Yogi, then you have contentment. You have real contentment. You're living a really productive life, meaning you're using every single breath to its maximum for the living. And nobody else would even recognize it. Nobody else would ever even know. Nor should they. That shouldn't be a priority. Telling others about Kriya Yoga is good occasionally, but should never be a priority. God is in charge of the world. We're not in charge of the world. The one who created the world is in charge of it, not us. We're not needed in this world at all. We come to this world because we need a physical body to have realization. We need to go through the swamp. We need to go through the trials, through the tribulations, through the difficulties to start to acquire wisdom. And then with that wisdom, we can use it to evaluate not this, not this, not this, as enticing as it is. There's no future in it. As enjoyable as it is, there's no future in it. And then you start to have the experience of bliss and meditation, and you see nothing compares to this. And it truly is that way. Nothing compares to contentment. Nothing. It's an incredible feeling. There's nothing that compares to it. And it doesn't require anything external to yourself. It's you. You are that contentment. But you identify with the body, you identify with the thoughts, you identify with your friends, you identify with your education, you identify with your vocation, occupation, parents, geographical location, religion, political affiliation. You identify with all those things. Your type of body, your color of your skin, what your diet is. You identify with all those different things, and you think, I'm this particular unique person that I've built out of my preferences. But you're not any of those things. But you can have realization of what you are. And it isn't difficult. Without a guru, it's impossible. Do you know anybody who's had enlightenment, realization without a guru? Name one person that you know personally. No, I don't. I've heard stories of Ramana Maharishi. None of us have met Ramana Maharishi. Ramana Maharishi said that that he didn't do it by himself. We never saw Ramana Maharishi's past lives. It's clear for the seeing in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna says that every effort you put forth to coming closer to me, none of it is wasted. If you don't accomplish union with me, yoga, you come back in the next life with the consciousness that you achieved in the previous life. You quickly regain that consciousness and then you start up again. And then you go further. And you might go all the way. And nobody sees what you did in your past life. So in this life, it might seem like, oh, he just realized God on his own. He had enlightenment on his own. People, very, very little insight. So no, there's no examples. And you say, well, the avatar. So people have this explanation of an avatar. They're just pretending to be ignorant. I never heard of something so ridiculous. That avatar comes to Earth and then pretends. The bestower of truth, the one who comes to bring truth, pretends. He has to pretend to be unrealized. No, he doesn't. He doesn't have to pretend. He's not pretending. When an avatar comes into a human body, there's a period of time where he doesn't know. He doesn't know that he's an avatar. He has the little brain of a little baby. He doesn't have any practical experience of the world. He doesn't have any experience of himself. All that has to be gained again. He comes in and suffers exactly like we do. And then throughout his whole life, he suffers, just like we do. There's no escaping physical suffering. Enlightenment doesn't escape physical suffering. I've never, in all my years living with Mahatmas, perfect masters, in the Himalayas and other places, I never encountered a single person that didn't feel pain. Everybody feels pain. Avatars do, perfect masters do, just like everybody else. All these stories that they don't feel pain, it's ridiculous. What they don't feel is they don't feel identification with the body that is in pain. Now, people who have chronic pain issues, they're being taught now. They're being taught now how to disassociate from the pain. Okay, medicine can't cure the pain, but we can teach you disassociation with tinnitus or with pain, with these things. So you're in a sense, or in actuality, you're rising above the pain. The body's still in pain, but you're not identifying with the pain. That's being taught now in different medical venues, especially with tinnitus, which a lot of people find just completely wrecks their life. It's the only thing that they can do is to disassociate from it. And we can do that now also, even if you just want to experiment with it. If you have some pain, even if it's temporary, great opportunity to experiment disassociation. And I guarantee you, and you know it, you've already done it. If you have pain, let's say you stump your toe and it's throbbing, there will be minutes, there will be seconds, moments when you're not feeling the pain because you're thinking of something else really intently, and then the pain comes back. But there's moments when you don't have it. So if there's a moment when you don't have it, it doesn't mean the pain stopped. It meant that your concentration is somewhere else. So for enlightenment, for realization through Kriya Yoga, a guru is absolutely vital. Gurus do not become unnecessary all of a sudden. even throughout thousands of years, gurus were always necessary. But then, with the death of Paramahansa Yogananda, then gurus were not necessary anymore. Ridiculous, man-made by people who either don't know better, which is probably the case with many of it, or are just deliberately not telling you the truth. I think most of them that I know, I think they just don't know any better. I thought it was interesting. I posted it, just a little paragraph in the Guru Kripa message group. And this is something that I don't think has ever been told to anybody. I don't think anybody's ever thought of it. It's been widely said that Paramahansa Yogananda initiated 100,000 people. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. There's a lot of exaggeration. And when it comes to gurus, disciples want them to appear as good as possible. Whether he initiated 100,000 or not makes no difference. But let's say, as active as he was, he traveled all over the United States, and would give big talks in auditoriums throughout America in the big cities, and the auditoriums were designed to hold 10, 15, 20,000 people. Now these are auditoriums way long time ago in America, and there were a lot of great auditoriums because that is where people gathered for education, meaning from men or women who traveled, who had a specialty in a particular field, and they would come and they would give talks. And it was before television. This was extremely popular, and everybody in society, especially upper middle class, would go to these talks. A great way to get together with your friends and with other members of the town, and then listen to interesting people and talks. So each of the people that came to Yogananda, a lot of them came to these talks that he gave in the auditoriums in Miami, Detroit, New York, Denver, Colorado, all sorts of places, to see the Swami. To see what a Swami has to say, see what a Swami looks like, see how the Swami talks. Yogananda would tell them stories of Eastern wisdom. A lot of the old stories from the scriptures. A lot of the same stories that Vivekananda and Paramahansa Ramakrishna and others would tell. A lot of old Indian stories, and then a lot of practical talks on peace and happiness and meditation. So most of the people that came to the auditorium were just people that saw the description on a poster. They would put up posters all over town, plaster posters, and the people would come to the auditorium for the evening to listen to him talk. So that's how James Lynn, for example, came to hear him talk. His wife saw the poster and she said, I want to go to this. And he didn't want to go to see Yogananda, but he finally gave in to his wife and went to listen to Yogananda. So if people were interested, they were invited to come back. And then he would usually stay in the city for about a week, and he would give nightly classes, and then it would culminate into Kriya Yoga. Now, there was a fee for this, and it was very expensive, by the way. It was $25. $25 back then was a lot of money. I mean, we're talking thousands of dollars, the equivalent. And then he would give initiation. So the question, I in my 72 years, I've lived among Mahatmas, spiritually realized people in all different situations all over the world, and ashrams as well, all over the world. And so I've seen a lot, and also a lot of variety. Now, what do you see? What do you see as a characteristic of human beings? There's a lot of characteristics. But one characteristic is people don't usually stick with something. They're usually kind of like the monkey mind. You know, we hear about the monkey mind, but they usually don't stick with things. Like at one time, I wanted to play the guitar. Some of my friends were forming a band. One friend was playing the drums. I was going to play the guitar, and we were going to sing. And so I bought a guitar, and I started taking guitar lessons, and I started practicing, and it lasted, I think, 6 weeks maybe, and then I lost interest. So there's a lot of things that people start that they find to be interesting, and then they lose interest in it. So I've seen lots and lots and lots of people come to gurus, come to Mahatmas, come to ashrams, and leave, and you never see them ever again. They're gone. Who knows why? Paramahansa Yogananda had a lot of such people. When he came to America, almost nobody ever heard about yoga. There were some people that studied yoga, had books on yoga. Very, very, very few. Almost nobody was vegetarian, for example. Nobody sat for meditation and these sorts of things. It's a real rarity. So Americans knew nothing about yoga. If you were to take a segment of people and ask them, they didn't know. So it was Yogananda's task when he came to the United States to teach Americans. This is what he concentrated on. He concentrated on the United States of America, Americans, which are extremely worldly people. And they would come to listen to him talk, and some liked it, and some thought that they would try it. Most of them didn't stay. Now, they were initiated directly by Paramahansa Yogananda. And at that time, there weren't very many people, and they were able to spend a lot of time with him. They were able to talk with him, and they will stay. This goes for regular people, but it also goes with people who said, I want to be a monk of your organization. Most of them also didn't stay. You know, at one time, Paramahansa Yogananda said he had all sorts of troubles with people. And he said, Divine Mother told me that she's in a clean house. And there's going to be a big upheaval of people. Most of the people, referring to all of his people, are going to go. They'll have all their own particular reasons why they're going to go. He said most of them are going to go. It's a big clearinghouse, and Divine Mother says that she's getting rid of the insincere people. So I know this. I've seen this throughout the years. It's just part of anything that you do in life. Some people are really interested and they stay with it, and they'll stay with it for life. My one afternoon after school, my father called my brother and myself into the living room, and he had a set of dumbbells and a barbell, and he said, I'm going to teach you how to lift weights. And my brother was completely not interested, but I fell in love with it. So even today, I'm still lifting weights. I was building muscles, lifting weights, building my strength, building my fitness, and I still do it today. But I loved it. I became really serious about it. But my brother never lifted another weight after that day. He wasn't interested in it. So people have different interests. And then some people want to try it. A friend of mine in the neighborhood saw that I was lifting weights and he wanted me to teach him. I taught him. It lasted 2 weeks, and he decided it wasn't for him. So the same thing happens with meditation. Same thing happens with Kriya Yoga. People come and go. So there's a big upheaval. Most of the people left. So I thought it was interesting that it's a fact. I can't say the exact numbers, but roughly out of all the people that were disciples of Paramahansa Yogananda, when he left his body, when he went up on stage in that hotel and collapsed and left his body, out of all those thousands and thousands and thousands of people he initiated, at that time, he had about 34 disciples. 34 disciples is not very much, is it? How many disciples did Sri Yukteswar have? Sri Yukteswar, from what Yogananda told us, was extremely strict. And he said he could have been a really popular guru, which means he was not a popular guru. So how many disciples did he have? 12. He said very few people can live up to my high standards, because my standards are crushing to the ego. And some people try, and Yogananda spoke about this in autobiography a lot. He said, I was severely tested by Sri Yukteswar, and he drove me to quit on several occasions. But I even under the most severe humiliation that Sri Yukteswar was putting through, he said, I refused to quit. He said to Sri Yukteswar, he said, I came to you for one thing and one thing only, that's God realization. And I don't care what you do to me. I don't care how humiliated you make me. I'm not going to leave you ever, because I came to you for God realization. So Sri Yukteswar only had 12. Now, how many did Lahiri Mahasaya have? He initiated thousands. Estimates are about 5,000. How many disciples did he have? You'll be surprised. He had about 12. Now he went on to have some real famous disciples. That Swami Prananamanda, the Satan two bodies. There Swami Kamalananda, Keshavananda. There were some that went out into the world and continued to teach as Kriya Yoga gurus. Sri Yukteswar was one of them. Sri Yukteswar was a guru, a Kriya Yoga guru. The other disciples of Lahiri Mahasaya were also gurus. Sri Yukteswar ji also had other disciples that were also gurus. It's a tradition in spiritual realization. A guru guides you on the path of realization, and then you can have realization if you follow your guru's instructions, and you can choose to teach others, which would be in the role of a guru. The guru is a teacher of, or you can just go about your life in any way that you like, and just bring light to people in silence. Yeah, if that's how you want to live your life, whatever your inclinations are. So, a Sat Guru avatar is entirely different. An avatar, the advent of an avatar, when the avatar leaves, there's many enlightened disciples, and they become gurus to others. And this is how they spread the light into the world, is it spread through consciousness. If for any reason you think that some disciples of the guru should never be a guru, then what you're saying is that there should never be a spreading of light. How can it be realization? How can you spread realization unless there's a continuation of spreading the light? And who are the light bearers? The light bearers are those of spiritual consciousness, not spiritual learning, which you learn in books, but from realization. They're the ones that have the power. They're the ones that have the Shakti to help others, to teach others. So one thing that is different about myself, and I've always been this way. I've always been a loner. I never had any friends on purpose, even though I've been around lots and lots and lots of people. I by choice, kept to myself. I don't talk to other people. I don't cultivate friends. I don't want friends. I don't need friends. I enjoy my own company. I don't talk about spirituality. I never have. I don't have conversations about it. I never have. My spiritual life is a secret. Just as Mahasaya told his disciples that it should be secret. To the common environment of people. If you're teaching Kriya Yoga, then obviously it's not a secret, but it's still kept relatively secret. Mahasaya, for example, and he was serious about this. He said, when he would initiate, he said, "Don't tell anybody that I'm your guru." And Yogananda said this also when his Sanskrit teacher, I believe it was hired by his brother, I think it was, maybe his father's influence too. But his Sanskrit teacher turned out to be a disciple of Lahiri Mahasaya. His father didn't know, even though his father was also a disciple of Lahiri Mahasaya. He didn't know. He was trying to get Yogananda's mind away from spirituality. His father and his brother were. But they hired a Sanskrit teacher who had spiritual realization. And his father didn't know that he also was a brother disciple of Lahiri Mahasaya. That's how secret it was. Nobody talked about their guru. If you're practicing Kriya Yoga, you understand why that is. It isn't a frivolous subject. Spirituality is not a frivolous subject. Once you have the tools, you go to work. It doesn't require anybody else. I've never heard, in all my 55 years, in all my different places I've lived and with all the Mahatmas and masters I've lived with, I've never heard of a concept called group meditation. I never heard of it. Of course, it was never practiced because I never heard of it. There's no Mahatma that ever said the word group meditation. There's no guru who ever said the word group meditation. Group meditation is a relatively new thing. I always, when I heard the concept group meditation, I thought, why? It's not a social activity. It's what you do when you go off somewhere, just like Krishna said, and just like the scriptures say. You go off to a lonely place by yourself, maybe even to a crematory ground or a burial ground. It's going to remind you of how temporary your life is. And you go off in the middle of the night to a lonely place and you meditate. So that's how I meditated. I never meditated in a group except for one time. And I told you the story. That was when I was in Punjabi Bagh. I was sleeping at the Ram Leela grounds, and I was told by the police that I had to leave immediately. And they said, you have to leave immediately. So I picked up my my blanket and I started walking. And the next day I came across two Mahatmas that invited me to come stay at, because they saw I was homeless, to stay at their ashram. And they had a satsang hall outside. It was an open air satsang. Had a roof, but everything else was open air. And it wasn't told to me that this is a group meditation. I just saw, it was about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I saw about a dozen Mahatmas facing the altar, and they were all sitting and meditating. So I said, well, I'm going to sit with them and meditate. That was the only group meditation I ever experienced. During those decades, later on when I was introduced to Kriya Yoga, then I started hearing this concept of group meditation, and I would participate in group meditations out to Kriya Yoga retreats. But just the very concept of group meditation goes against meditation. Meditation is, you completely forget where you are. You shut out all the senses. There's nobody else exists except for your awareness, nothing else. So how could doing that as a group have any benefit whatsoever? Some say, well, it's the collective energy. Well, that's going way off track. All the energy in the universe is inside you. You don't need somebody else's energy. The energy that you're getting from other people also includes their thoughts. Is that what you need when you meditate? You need to take on other people's thoughts as well? No, it doesn't make any sense. So the reason I'm pointing this out is I'm impressing upon you what Kriya Yoga practice is. It's something that you do by yourself, preferably at the lonely time of the day, of the morning, early in the morning. And it's the lonely time, it's because it's an alone time. Most other people are sleeping. So you make a habit of waking up before the sun comes out, which most people don't, unless they have a job to get to early in the morning. And you wake up where you're not rushed, you're not hurried, and you have plenty of time in the quiet to do your sadhana. And we'll talk for an hour and a half, nonstop. I was feeling kind of quiet. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. So we can have questions. Is there anything you want to ask or talk about?
Sadhar Pranam, respected Swamiji. So I had a query with respect to group meditation. While I completely agree, I have never been able to meditate in groups. In fact, I've often felt more restless, and I've stepped out and felt that I could meditate better alone in the garden or someplace. But yet, all my life, this is what I've been told, that group meditation is very useful for new meditators to be able to cultivate the habit of being able to sit in meditation. So, is there any benefit to it at all? Or?
No, there's no benefit. You're being taught to do something that it isn't Kriya Yoga at all. There's a lot of meditations. There's a lot of practices that's true, but not with Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is about going within, and you're taught how to go within at the time of initiation. So that's what it's about. It's about going within. So if you start adding on, you have to be a vegetarian. Okay, now that's added on. You have to do this type of occupation. You have to do a spiritual occupation. Now that's added on. You have to wear Rudraksha beads, and that's added on. You have to have an altar. Now that's added on. You have to meditate in groups. Now that's added on. You need to read these books. Now that's added on. This is added. It's just one thing. Just go within to that spiritual point that's within you. Is that the kutasa that's here? You go within there. Everything is there. You don't need anything else. Nothing else is needed. Nothing.
Yes.
But how many people put all their concentration on going there and not bringing anything else with them, not accumulating a bunch of new spiritual stuff that they have to live with? You don't need any of it. None of it's required. You have exactly what you need right here. It's right here. You were born with it. And it'll never leave you. You'll always have it through eternity. You had it before you were born. You'll have it after you leave. There's nothing in the world that you're going to take with you.
Yes. I didn't believe that.
The real purpose of the world is that you're in an environment where it's extremely hard to concentrate on a spiritual ideal, which is the experience within. It's very hard because you have so many other things that you were taught are important. Your parents tell you you need to grow up to be this kind of person. Your father was a lawyer. Your father was a doctor. You need to be a lawyer. You need to be a doctor. You need to have a good income. You need to be of this political persuasion. You need to be of this religion. So your family has expectations of you. They might be a domineering parent that really push it, or they might just be their expectations. And then society has expectations of you. And then you start forming your own expectations. You pick out the things that you like and the things that you don't like, and then you find somebody that resembles what you want to be like, and so you try to be like them. And you keep getting more and more and more external, more and more identified with your body, how your body relates to everything external. And then when it comes, you realize that none of that is giving you the happiness that you really wanted. Nothing's giving you the security that you really wanted. Nothing's giving you real peace. Different things are giving you different things. And so you really soul search for truth. And you come across some teachings that are there for anybody to discover. And it's usually in books. People usually come across a book. In India, it wouldn't necessarily be books. That's just because of our Western culture. In India, you don't have to go very far to start to get spiritual wisdom. And the difficulty in Western Christianity is that it has so much dogma along with it, and so many things that are just simply not true and not helpful. But in India, there's a lot of really excellent temples, ashrams, in scriptures, and are very, very clear, to the point, and they're not dogmatic. It's really based on Sanatan Dharma, which is the eternal religion, which is not dogmatic. Sanatan Dharma really doesn't have anything to do with anything physical. That's why it's the eternal religion. It'll live forever, because everything of the world, every religion of the world is going to perish when the world perishes. The only religion that is eternal is the Sanatan Dharma religion. So as a general rule, and anything that anybody tells you, particularly about Kriya Yoga, look to see how much emphasis is on external things. And then look to see how much emphasis is on spiritual things. Not spiritual actions, but spiritual presence, spiritual realities. And then try your best only to listen to people who have the experience. And not to people who say they have the experience. You'll see those people on traveling from city to city, and they dress a certain way, they present themselves in a certain way, they have a certain story, and other people tell you that they are this and this and this and this. A true guru is never like that. A true guru is all about you, what you are, what you truly are, and what your potential for realization is. They never talk about their own realization, because their realization makes no difference for you. What makes the difference is that they're speaking real, true wisdom of the Vedas, and that comes from their realization. But their realization makes no difference for you, and they put the emphasis on your realization, not on theirs. So you would never make a mistake with a false teacher or a false guru if you just pay attention to that. And then if they're putting an emphasis on external things, and know also that they're not a true teacher if they're putting emphasis on external things. Any person that's teaching true spirituality, because they're not putting emphasis on external things, they're not putting emphasis on themselves at all. They're putting all the emphasis on your realization. So there's nothing for them to market. There's nothing for them to package up. But you see it among teachers now that they'll give a different name to Kriya Yoga, like Kundalini Kriya Yoga, for example, or Sattva Kriya Yoga, or different names to commercialize it and package it to their own brand. Know that all of that is a dead giveaway to dishonesty. So you have everything that you need. You were born with it, and you can utilize the tools that you have to realize God, or not. The choice is completely up to you. Nobody's going to monitor what you're doing every day. I don't monitor what you're doing every day. I very, 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 very rarely ask anybody about their meditation. I can tell if somebody is meditating every day or not. I don't need to ask anybody. And of course, you already know. You know what you're doing. But I don't even put an emphasis on meditation, really. Any of you that know me really well, all of my emphasis is putting the connection a real communion connection with you and God, and not with figureheads, not making a connection with a figurehead of a guru. Make a connection with God within you, the real presence of God within you. Yes, Sani, you have a question?
Yes, Guruji. Guruji, relating to the story of Janaka, which you were talking about, and particularly, when he was um, from the court, the mental stress which he was having, and then he went inside. He found realization, and then he could take on, like, the show must go on. That's what happened. And I was thinking also, Swami Vivekanand had this thing that he wanted to be in a hill, like, there's nobody, like a simple life towards the end, but he could not do it. Or Yogananda ji wished that he should just be in the mountains in his next life, something like that. So my query is the perception which is being there, and sometimes I also feel that it gets too tough in the business or something, like it's too stressful. So what is it for me to learn? Like, because the tendency is, okay, spiritual life means, yeah, it is simple. The world is not there, you're not making so much money, there's no so much interaction, but there is a creeping tamas also there. So hearing all these three stories, and especially what you talked in the beginning, how do I balance this thing of, okay, you have to just work hard in the world, without getting involved into this, that spiritual means you just go away, in some oblivion kind of a place.
Well, again, you're, without realizing it, you continue to put an emphasis on externals. Nobody ever said anything about going off into an oblivion or not working hard and not making a lot of money. You're pointing all to external things. There's nothing to do with any of those. If you want to work really hard, if that's what you enjoy, and if you want to make a lot of money, if that's what you enjoy, it has no detrimental effect on your spiritual realization at all. But if you want to be lazy, if you don't want to do anything, if you don't want to contribute to your family or to society or to your guru, and if you just want to not do anything, that is very detrimental, because you're not living a positive life. So a positive life is putting every bit of concentration into your connection with God. That's internal, that's within. But you continue to live a life in the world. So you continue to do your duty in the world. I've only met a few people in the world that didn't have any real duties in the world. And I used to live on a private island off of Miami Beach, and everybody was extremely wealthy. That's where I lived. And I remember one fella in particular. He was about my age. And his father was a record producer. And his father was extremely wealthy, and he didn't have to work. And he lived a life of luxury, just like I did. But he didn't have to work. And that's the first time I'd ever seen somebody really, really lost. He was also interested in meditation, but he couldn't ever succeed in meditation because he didn't have any difficulty in life. It's through the hardships and the difficulty and the friction of life that gives you the emphasis, the desire, the feeling, the focus to concentrate. That's called influence of Thomas of Guna. Not feeling motivated. For example, when around a guru, the first thing that I felt, more so than meditation, more so than anything, was what can I do to help my guru? I felt an overwhelming feeling of that, and I noticed that a lot of the disciples felt the same way. And I remember it exactly like it was yesterday. They were going to do absolutely everything they could in life as a human being to make things to where they could help their guru. They could help their guru uh, not just live, and that's easy. A group of people can get together and help maintain the guru's finances. So that was way down the radar. And it hardly even requires any real effort. But how can we help facilitate what the guru's work is? And the guru's work is to give satsang to people who are interested, and to give initiation to people who are really, really sincerely interested. But of course, the disciples took care of all the financial needs of the guru. That went without saying. There would never be a lapse in that. First ashram that I moved into, and I lived in many, Mahatma at Haranan. I'd never been in an ashram. I thought, well, I'll go and I'll have a lot of time to meditate. And he told me to go get a job. The ashram needed money. And I didn't have any second thoughts about it. That's what Mahatma Haranan told me to do. And that's exactly what I did. I never had a job before. I never worked before. So I went the next day and got a job, anything that I could do, which was building mobile homes in a factory. I'd never done it before. I never worked before. I never punched the time clock before. It wasn't in the ashram. I had to go to work every day and then come back tired. I never thought, well, I'm not getting what I want out of this deal. I came here to meditate and to live a spiritual life. And now I'm working in a factory. I did exactly what Mahatma Haranan told me to do, and I saw the importance of it. The ashram needed money. How is it going to house Mahatmas and initiations and satsang if the money isn't there? So that was a problem for Paramahansa Yogananda. Because remember, he came to the West, and Americans had no concept of providing for the guru, so the guru could teach Kriya Yoga. So he actually took care of the disciples. If he had said, go get jobs and give your paycheck at the office so that we can support the work, we can pay the mortgage on the buildings, do you think anybody would have done that? Those people back then? Or do you think Yogananda would have found himself with just a couple of people around him? He wouldn't have had those people living in Encinitas unless he provided for them. And he said that. He said this is really, really strange. He said that in India everybody takes care of the guru, and here in America I take care of the disciples. So as a disciple, number one, I know exactly what to do. I take care of the guru, number one. And number two, I follow the guru's instructions. Because I came to Sri Yukteswar, you could say, I came to the guru for God realization. And so I'm going to do what the Mahatma, I'm going to do what Sri Yukteswar tells me to do. That's the respect in India that we have for a guru. That's the respect that I had for a guru. And I saw that as a matter of course with Mahatmas and gurus growing up in India. So, in your own life, you have a physical body. Your physical body has to act. So act in the highest way. The two highest ways of acting, it's serving your guru and going within the way that your guru has taught you. And your guru comes from a lineage of gurus. So you can tell in several ways if a guru is authentic. Number one is they always put the emphasis on your realization, nothing else. They don't put any emphasis on themselves. And then they show you a practical way of connecting with God. And it's something that you can do and you can have results if you follow the real simple instructions. So those are our priorities. And if you have a family, take care of your parents. Honor your parents. Take care of your parents. No matter what their take on life is. If it's not agreeable, just disregard it and take care of them. Do whatever you can to provide for your parents. And if you have children, your responsibility is raising a child at least until the child is an adult. After they're adults, it isn't necessary. You might choose to, but it's not necessary. And also yourself. Make sure that you are honest with yourself. Make yourself a priority. You're born as yourself in this world as yourself. So obviously you should be a priority. You should definitely be a priority. So do everything you possibly can for yourself. For the best life you can possibly have. And the best life you can possibly have is a life of increased wisdom. Not learning about stuff, about things, but wisdom. True wisdom. And wisdom comes through trial and error. It comes from making mistakes. A lot of it comes from making mistakes. So you have to make mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, then you're not even trying, which is worse. And you learn a lot from mistakes. So be up and doing and be trying and working hard and be strong, be courageous. I've always had an ideal for myself of being strong and being courageous and never giving up. Always pushing even harder when I'm the most tired for my ideal. And then be honest about your desires. What desires do you have? Don't disregard your desires. Identify them. And if you have certain worldly desires, be honest about it and pursue those desires so that you satisfy them. Don't expect them to just fall in your lap. Most things that you want in life, you have to pursue them. You need to put a lot of strength and effort into it. And the secret to that is do your sadhana as your number one priority in the morning. And then the rest of the day, work for yourself. Work for your parents, work for your family, work for your children, work for your guru. Meditate as a priority, doing your sadhana. And you live an ideal life. have self-realization. You'll have God realization. I know many. I lived with many, slept with many that had God realization and self-realization. So I know that it's true. I know that it's a fact because I experienced it starting at a young age. Most people have never been with the person that has self-realization, and never even met a person that hasn't. And definitely not God realization. Nobody's ever been with a person that has God realization. It's extremely rare. Being in the presence of someone who has self-realization, you learn a tremendous amount. You unlearn a tremendous amount. You just without even talking, you learn all the things that you think are spiritually important that were not spiritually important at all. They're just concepts that you've learned from somebody else. Just remember, anything that puts an emphasis on externals, when it comes to spiritual realization. Now, when it comes to fulfilling your desires, well, of course, we did a lot of emphasis on externals. I had certain big, lofty desires. I had quite a few of them. And I put a lot of emphasis on fulfilling those desires. 100% concentration. And I've achieved every single one of them. Every single one. So that now I can't say that there isn't anything that I haven't achieved. There isn't anything I haven't done. I've achieved absolutely everything I've set my sights on. And that's in the world, and it's also spiritual too. I was able to achieve what I did in the world because God gave me this body. He gave me this life. And I was able to achieve what I have spiritually because God took pity on me. This is my experience. And took mercy on me and had grace on me. Is the reason I have any spiritual realization. And nothing to do with my meditation. So I can say that your meditation does not produce spiritual realization. I would look at all the monks, the Buddhist monks, for example, the hundreds and hundreds of little boys that started meditating at a young age. You would see groups of many of them becoming adults. But how many had God realization? Are they just churning out God realized souls in the Buddhist philosophy? No, because it isn't about meditation. It's about God. And even though I meditated every day, and I meditated from 2:30 to 5:30 every single day, 7 days a week, even when I was working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then when I was first in the Himalayas, I was meditating 12, 14, 16 hours a day. I never thought that I was a great meditator. I never thought, and I always thought I could have meditated more. I always thought I could have meditated deeper. I could have meditated better. I never thought that I achieved anything in meditation. It isn't something that you achieve. Anything. It's just the right thing to do, to put yourself in the place where that God's grace can change your life. Okay. Om Tat Sat, 2 hours. And see everybody called Melindy. DK.
Thank you, Gurudev.
आपसे मिलकर अच्छा लगा तुम से प्यार
Thank you,
प्यार
Gurudev.
करता हूँ
Jai Gurudev.
Love you too,
बहुत
Guruji.
प्यार करता हूँ
Ram Girshi, Om Tat Sat.
Om Tat Sat.
Now, good day.